Well, folks, today we have some great news surrounding Nintendo Switch 2 coming from some extremely reliable insiders, including one that, look, this guy has a nearly 100% track record. Not quite there, but I got one of the most reliable journalists in the industry. Also, we have some direct images from the Nintendo Switch 2 experience, at least one of them. And that image, of course, is driving a lot of excitement for the month of April. So, hey, folks, how you guys doing? I am Nathaniel Rebel Jazz from Nintendo Prime. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 right now through the viral sweep link down in the pinned comment or the description. You guys go ahead and enter if you would like to. And what I am going to do is dive right into the news because we got to get into this article over at Insider Gaming. So Insider Gaming has this exclusive piece by Tom Henderson. This is based on information they have received from the Game Developers Conference 2025. It says exclusive, Nintendo Switch 2 will have a 3-phase launch plan for its games. With Nintendo Switch 2 just 1 week away from its official full reveal, this year's annual Game Developers Conference was buzzing with talk around the future of the console. One such discussion was around the Nintendo Switch 2 launch date, which according to the people that I spoke to at the event, falls in June. Now remember folks, we have heard this June date before. This has been a fairly consistent from journalists and insiders on June, with the occasional mention that maybe late May. Makes me feel like this might be an early June release, maybe the first week of June, but we'll get to that in tomorrow. We have a Nintendo Byte podcast episode tomorrow where we're going to go over all of our predictions, have bingo cards, and we'll see. Maybe somebody's guessing for an early June release date. We'll see on that. Anyways, we get back here, and it says, but that's not all. According to various sources, Nintendo Switch 2 will launch its games in a 3-phase strategy, starting with primarily first-party games on launch. According to sources, the second stage will arrive in October and November for third-party studios, most of which are expecting dev kits for the Switch 2 to be sent in June. Finally, it was said that the third phase for games will be in the holiday period. In addition to the talk of the 3-phase launch plan, Insider Gaming has also learned that select media and creators will be attending Nintendo Switch 2 hands-on next week, where they'll get hands-on with the console and some of its launch games for a few hours, which, by the way, the Nintendo Switch 2 experience is next week. So, is it just that? Or is there an additional event? I have no idea. As we get in here, the Nintendo Switch 2 is scheduled to be fully revealed on April 2nd, so we expect more in-depth hardware coverage and perhaps some of the launch games too. A launch price along with the official release date is also expected to be announced during the event. According to various gaming insiders, Nintendo is also planning a Nintendo Direct later this week, but the contents are currently unknown. Now look, obviously, this is quite interesting. A 3-phase launch plan of mostly first-party at launch, then some third parties October, November, and then December, I guess, for everyone. I find this interesting because I feel like it's missing a key point. I kept thinking about this because it felt confusing. We were hearing about dev kits all the way back in July of 2023 being at third-party companies. Almost all the information in the leaks that has proven to be true have come from third-party companies, meaning clearly they have some dev kits. So why would there be nothing at launch? Well, ZHugeX, an industry analyst and stuff that works out of Japan, provided some context for this over on X. So you see this post by Wario64 going over that article by Tom Henderson, but here it says, Daniel Ahmed says, this article doesn't do a great job of explaining that studios have had dev kits for a while and more studios will receive them in June. So this goes back to what we said about a GDC story we had a couple days ago, where I mentioned that I feel like these sources are independent developers. So we're talking about people that make like the indie games, right? We're talking about indie game developers. They haven't really gotten dev kits, and they probably won't be getting them until June. Why? Well, that's when the system launches, and Nintendo won't care about leaks anymore because the system's already out there. So I do feel like that's sort of what's happening. Also, it kind of feels like this 3-phase launch plan might be a guess because these people don't even have dev kits. So if they're talking to people without dev kits, then how would they know about the launch plan? How would they know it's launching in June? How would they know it then is doing a 3-phase plan? Maybe Nintendo just has a 2-phase plan, and that is at launch, and for the rest of this year, it's primarily going to be Nintendo and trusted companies. And then everyone else gets their dev kits, and they can release their games whenever they damn well please. I'm pretty sure that's it. that's the 2 phases. It's not actually this complicated 3-phase plan of just Nintendo, then some third party, then everybody else. No, it's literally Nintendo and all the trusted companies, including AAA, and then the indies can come later. That's it. That seems to be the plan. I don't really think it's as complicated, but all Tom Henderson can do is report what he is told. It is of my opinion, of course, that I think that they don't actually know the plans. Maybe it is June, though. We have heard June several times. Also, we've had this rumor going around for a little bit about how Metroid Prime 4 is going to be having a big blowout at the Switch 2 Direct next week. And look, there's a Switch 1 Direct this week, so maybe it's this week. Maybe we hear about Metroid Prime 4 as soon as 2 days from now, but I don't know anything about this, so I'm just reporting what's out there. So we got to report this additional rumor out there dealing with Metroid Prime 4 and the Switch 2 event because, again, there's a lot of belief that it could potentially be a launch game. Well, industry insider Extus, who has had some things right and wrong in the past. I'd probably say he's on the level of someone you guys might have heard of in Nashweedle. He's a Spanish insider. He says, according to the sources, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond won't appear at the upcoming Switch 2 Direct. So what he is saying is he's completely contradicting Kiwi Talks, who says, like, hey, it's going to be there. It's going to be a big blowout. It's going to be like game of the show. And he's basically saying in this video here that no, that's not happening. That's not happening at all. So there just won't even be Metroid Prime 4 at the Switch 2 Direct. Now, if that's the case, then I would say it'll be telling this week. If there is a Direct this week and the rumors are correct, I think then we get to the situation where Metroid Prime 4 will be blown out this week then, right? If there's a huge blowout at a Nintendo Direct this week for Metroid Prime 4, then I'll start to believe it's not actually going to be featured next week. And maybe it's not even a cross-generation title or even a launch title. But again, this is one of those things where speculation and rumors are going to meet reality. We have a Direct for sure on April 2nd, so we'll know definitively that day. So rumors and speculation are going to come to a head here in the next 8 days because we're 8 days away. That being said, I did mention earlier that next week we have the Nintendo Switch 2 experience. Maybe that's what they're referencing with content creators and people going hands-on. But then maybe there's a separate event as well that happens before the Switch 2 experience begins over the weekend. Either way, this is exciting because this is real. This is legit. I believe this is in New York City. Let's go take a look. Passed by this earlier today. This is on the Nintendo Switch 2 subreddit posted by Euphoric Nugget. And it says, this is the location for the Switch 2 event in New York City. That's the experience. Still wish I got picked in that lottery. Congrats to anyone who got picked. Look at that, baby. Just look at that. Right at the damn entrance, man. They got the lights surrounding the giant Switch 2 logo. Here's an even closer up look. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby, man. All this does is just get me even more and more hyped. Also, a little bit sad that I won't be attending these Nintendo Switch 2 events. The wait list is technically not closed. I am still on all the wait list here in the US, so maybe I get like notified the day before that I get to go, and here I am rushing for a last minute flight plan to go partake in the event. That's obviously a hope of mine, but very unlikely. That being said, pretty cool stuff there. It's really interesting to see that Nintendo has already begun their marketing. We know about the logos they're putting over on the Seattle Mariners baseball team as well. We talked about that in a prior video. Things are just ramping up for Nintendo Switch 2, and I guess we'll know soon enough. Again, this report today from Tom Henderson, and this is just me applying logic. I think it's a lot of indie developers, and I don't think they're lying to them, but I also think that they're not privy, and there's better sources out there. Then again, Tom Henderson's pretty well connected, so the June thing, I absolutely do believe in two aspects. I believe that it's possible and maybe even likely Nintendo Switch 2 is launching in June. And because it's launching in June, that is highly likely when Nintendo will send dev kits out to all the indie studios, since they won't be worrying about leaks anymore at that point because the product will already be available for sale. So what's going to leak? Things that are already in consumers' hands, right? So anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Robojans from Nintendo Prime. Let me know what you think about this news all down in the comments below. And as always, folks, I'll catch you guys on tonight's live stream, tomorrow's podcast, or in my next video.